In the world of luxury automobiles, few vehicles command as much respect as the Range Rover. Its origins can be traced back to a time when utility reigned supreme, when the idea of a luxurious off-roader seemed almost absurd. But innovation thrives on defying expectations. It all started with Maurice Wilks, a man whose vision for a no-nonsense workhorse laid the foundation for the Land Rover. Yet, as the years passed, another mind would take that DNA and redefine it, proving that off-road prowess and refinement could coexist. What followed was the birth of a billion-dollar brand that redefined the meaning of the word SUV. Maurice Wilks and the birth of Land Rover. Maurice Wilks was not just an engineer, he was a visionary. As the chief engineer of the Rover Company, he was known for his ability to turn ideas into reality. But in 1947, he was tasked with a challenge that would define his legacy, creating a vehicle that could conquer any terrain. While spending time on his farm in Anglesey, Wales, he found the answer: a rugged, go-anywhere machine, much like the Willys Jeep that had proven its worth on the battlefields of World War II. But Wilks didn't just want to replicate it, he wanted to improve upon it. Using an old Jeep chassis as his testbed, Wilks began experimenting. He and his team modified the frame, fine-tuned the suspension, and adapted the design to suit both agricultural and civilian use. He envisioned a vehicle that farmers, workers, and explorers could rely on, a machine as versatile as a tractor, yet comfortable enough to be driven on the road. This was the seed that would grow into the Land Rover Series 1. However, innovation rarely comes without resistance. When Wilks proposed the idea to Rover Company executives, he was met with skepticism. At the time, Rover was known for producing sedans, not utilitarian workhorses. Many within the company doubted whether there was a market for such a vehicle. Would people really buy an off-road machine built by a company famous for elegant road cars? But Wilks refused to back down. He demonstrated prototypes, showing the vehicle's durability and adaptability. Slowly, attitudes shifted. The post-war economy was changing, and the need for a robust, all-terrain vehicle was undeniable. Finally, Rover executives gave the project their blessing, and in 1948, the Land Rover Series 1 made its grand debut at the Amsterdam Motor Show. The response was overwhelming. Instantly, the Land Rover became a sensation. Farmers, military forces, and adventurers alike saw its potential. What began as an experimental farm vehicle had transformed into a global icon, a testament to Maurice Wilks's vision, persistence, and engineering brilliance. The legacy of his creation endures, proving that sometimes the boldest ideas come from the most unexpected places. The struggles behind the success. When the Land Rover first rolled off the production line in 1948, it was never meant to be a long-term fixture in the Rover Company's lineup. In fact, it was seen as nothing more than a temporary stopgap model, a rugged utility vehicle designed to keep the company afloat in the uncertain post-war economy. But fate had other plans. Production challenges loomed from the very beginning. The aftermath of World War II left Britain grappling with material shortages, particularly steel, which was being heavily rationed. Traditional car manufacturing seemed nearly impossible, but Maurice Wilks refused to let that stop him. He turned to an unlikely alternative: aluminum. Plentiful due to surplus aircraft materials from the war, aluminum was lightweight, resistant to corrosion, and most importantly, available. The decision was unconventional, but it would become one of Land Rover's defining characteristics, giving the vehicle its durability and longevity. Initially, production was cautious. Rover executives weren't convinced of its long-term viability, so only a limited number of units were manufactured. But Wilks knew they had struck gold. Demand skyrocketed almost immediately after the Land Rover debuted at the Amsterdam Motor Show. Farmers, military officials, and industrial workers all clamored for a vehicle that could go anywhere and do anything. Rover had vastly underestimated just how much the world needed the Land Rover. With demand surging, Wilks found himself in a high-stakes battle, not just to prove the Land Rover's worth, but to secure the resources needed to ramp up production. Financial constraints were tight, and scaling up wasn't easy. Yet, through sheer determination and strategic thinking, Wilks led Rover through it all. He secured additional materials, optimized production, and ensured that Land Rover became the company's most successful product. What had started as a temporary fix turned into an automotive legend. Under Maurice Wilks's leadership, Land Rover not only survived against the odds, it thrived, cementing its place as one of the most iconic vehicles of all time. Land Rover after Wilks. In 1963, Maurice Wilks passed away from a heart attack, leaving behind a thriving Land Rover brand that had already cemented itself as the world's go-to off-road vehicle. Under his leadership, the Land Rover had evolved from a temporary solution to a global phenomenon, trusted by farmers, adventurers, and military forces alike. But as groundbreaking as his vision had been, the Land Rover's journey was far from over. In the years that followed, it would expand in ways Wilks himself could never have imagined. The Land Rover Series 2 and Series 3 became symbols of rugged dependability, spreading across continents and proving their worth in the harshest conditions. Whether crossing the African savanna, navigating the Australian outback, or enduring the Arctic cold, Land Rovers became indispensable tools for those who needed reliability in the most extreme environments. Governments, humanitarian organizations, and expedition leaders all turned to Land Rover, reinforcing its reputation as an unstoppable workhorse. However, while the Land Rover's dominance off-road was unquestionable, the automotive industry was changing. By the late 1960s, a new demand had begun to take shape. Buyers wanted not just capability, but comfort. Wealthier customers sought vehicles that could handle rough terrain without sacrificing refinement. The idea of a premium off-road vehicle, once unthinkable, was beginning to gain traction. While the original Land Rover had been a tool of necessity, a new market was emerging, one that desired luxury as well as toughness. Though Wilks did not live to see it, his creation was on the brink of a transformation. The rugged DNA of the Land Rover was about to be merged with a new, unexpected element: luxury. What came next would redefine the SUV forever. The birth of the Range Rover. As the demand for vehicles that could handle rough terrain without sacrificing on-road comfort grew, Spen King, the brilliant engineer and nephew of Maurice Wilks, saw an opportunity to revolutionize the SUV forever. King envisioned a vehicle that could bridge the gap between rugged utility and refined luxury, a concept that had never been attempted before. Leading a small, dedicated team, he set out to develop a prototype that would lay the foundation for something groundbreaking. To keep the project under wraps, they gave it the codename Velar, a name derived from the Italian word velare, meaning to veil or to cover. But what they were creating was anything but ordinary. The Velar prototype introduced a series of engineering breakthroughs that set it apart from traditional off-roaders. Unlike the Land Rover, which used leaf springs for suspension, the new design featured coil spring suspension, offering a smoother ride without compromising capability. It also came with permanent four-wheel drive, ensuring exceptional traction on any surface, and a powerful 3.5-liter V8 engine sourced from Buick, providing the kind of performance unheard of in off-road vehicles. This combination of refinement and toughness was a game-changer. In 1970, the Range Rover was officially launched, and the automotive world took notice. It wasn't just an SUV, it was the first of its kind. A vehicle that blended sophistication with rugged capability. It could tackle rocky trails and muddy fields just as easily as it could cruise down a highway in style. Suddenly, luxury and off-road performance were no longer mutually exclusive. The Range Rover redefined the SUV market, setting the stage for a new era of adventure and elegance. Spen King had taken the foundation laid by his uncle and elevated it into something even greater. Challenges and skepticism. When Spen King and his team developed the Range Rover, they believed they were creating something revolutionary, but not everyone saw it that way. Critics were convinced that a luxury 4x4 was an unnecessary gamble. At the time, SUVs were strictly seen as work vehicles, built for farmers, military forces, and industries, not for executives or the wealthy. Many believed that blending off-road capability with comfort was a contradiction, and that there simply wouldn't be enough demand to justify production. Beyond skepticism, Rover Group itself was struggling financially, and those money troubles nearly killed the Range Rover before it ever reached the market. The company was weighed down by financial strain caused by outdated manufacturing facilities, lackluster sales of its sedan models, and the overall economic uncertainty of post-war Britain. Investing in an unproven luxury off-roader seemed like an unnecessary risk, and internal debates nearly shelved the project altogether. But King and his team persisted, convinced that they had something special. When the Range Rover launched in 1970, it was far from the plush, high-end SUV we know today. The original model had a simple, utilitarian interior, vinyl seats, a basic dashboard, and hose-down rubber flooring. It was designed to be as practical as it was capable. However, something unexpected happened. Wealthy buyers started They saw potential in the Range Rover, not just as a rugged 4x4, but as a status symbol. Demand for more luxurious options pushed Rover to rethink its approach, gradually refining the model with upgraded materials and more sophisticated interiors. Despite its potential, early sales were slow, partly due to marketing missteps. The vehicle wasn't properly positioned in the market, and confusion over its purpose kept some buyers away. However, Rover quickly learned from these mistakes, and as positive reviews started pouring in, praising its unique balance of comfort and capability, sales gained momentum, started taking an interest. What had once been doubted as an unnecessary luxury had proven the critics wrong. The Range Rover wasn't just a success, it was the beginning of a new era for SUVs, one where rugged performance and refinement could coexist. A billion-dollar global brand. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, the Range Rover underwent a remarkable transformation. What started as a rugged yet practical off-roader evolved into a true luxury vehicle, incorporating high-end features that redefined the SUV segment. Leather seats, wood trim, and an advanced air suspension system elevated the driving experience, making the Range Rover as comfortable on city streets as it was on mountain trails. These refinements solidified its reputation as the ultimate blend of capability and sophistication. As the Range Rover became more refined, it also became a status symbol. Celebrities, politicians, and business leaders gravitated toward the vehicle, drawn to its combination of prestige and performance. Whether parked outside exclusive clubs in London or navigating Hollywood streets, the Range Rover signified success. It was no longer just an off-road vehicle, it was a statement. The brand's expansion reached new heights in 1987, when the Range Rover officially entered the US market. At the time, luxury SUVs were almost unheard of, with American buyers associating four-wheel drive vehicles with utility rather than exclusivity. But the Range Rover changed that perception, offering an SUV that could provide both rugged capability and first-class comfort. Its success in the US proved that there was a growing market for premium off-road vehicles. This success did not go unnoticed. Inspired by the Range Rover's dominance, other luxury automakers soon followed. Mercedes-Benz introduced the G-Class to a broader market, BMW developed the X5, and even ultra-luxury brands like Bentley and Rolls-Royce eventually entered the SUV space. What had once been a niche idea had become a full-fledged movement, all thanks to the Range Rover's ability to merge adventure with opulence. By the end of the 20th century, the Range Rover had not only redefined itself, but had reshaped the entire automotive industry. Corporate turmoil. Despite the Range Rover's success, the Rover Group continued to struggle financially throughout the late 20th century. Poor sales from its other divisions, outdated manufacturing processes, and mounting debts made it difficult for the company to stay afloat. In 1994, Rover Group was sold to BMW, which hoped to revive the brand. However, the partnership proved to be anything but smooth. BMW faced immense challenges in turning Rover's fortunes around, and by 2000, it had had enough. The company decided to break up Rover Group, keeping the Mini brand while selling Land Rover to Ford. The move marked yet another chapter in Land Rover's turbulent history, but Ford saw potential in the brand. Under Ford's ownership, Range Rover continued to evolve, incorporating more advanced technology, powerful engines, and cutting-edge luxury features that kept it ahead of the competition. However, financial struggles within Ford itself led to yet another sale. In 2008, amid a global economic downturn, Ford sold Land Rover, alongside Jaguar, to Tata Motors, an Indian automotive giant. Many doubted whether Tata could handle such prestigious brands, but the company allowed Land Rover the freedom and investment needed to thrive. The creation of Jaguar Land Rover, JLR, under Tata's ownership brought stability and innovation, ushering in a new era for Range Rover. Yet, through all these ownership changes, one thing never wavered: Range Rover's status as the gold standard for luxury SUVs. Despite financial turmoil and corporate shakeups, it remained the vehicle of choice for royalty, celebrities, and executives worldwide. Today, Range Rover continues to lead the luxury SUV market, proving that no matter who owns the brand, its legacy of refinement, capability, and prestige endures. The Range Rover's legacy. The Range Rover didn't just redefine the SUV, It paved the way for an entirely new category of high-end, ultra-luxury off-road vehicles. When it debuted in 1970, many doubted there was a market for an SUV that combined rugged capability with refinement. But Spenking's vision proved them wrong. Over the decades, the Range Rover evolved, setting the standard for what a luxury SUV could be. Today, the influence of the Range Rover is undeniable. It now competes with some of the most prestigious names in the automotive world, including the Rolls-Royce Cullinan and the Bentley Bentayga. These ultra-luxury SUVs, built for the elite, might not have existed if Range Rover hadn't first demonstrated that buyers wanted a vehicle that could conquer the wilderness in absolute comfort. What started as an ambitious experiment is now an industry-wide expectation. Jaguar Land Rover, the parent company of Range Rover, is now worth billions, and the Range Rover lineup remains its crown jewel. From the standard Range Rover to the high-performance Range Rover Sport and the sleek, stylish Range Rover Velar, the brand continues to dominate the luxury SUV market. The demand for exclusivity and capability has never been higher, and Range Rover continues to push boundaries to stay ahead of the competition. As the automotive world moves towards sustainability, Range Rover is evolving once again. The introduction of hybrid and fully electric models marks a new era for the brand, ensuring that luxury and off-road capability remain at the forefront while embracing cutting-edge technology. Advanced driver assistance systems, ultra-premium materials, and state-of-the-art infotainment further cement its place as the ultimate luxury SUV. More than 50 years after its debut, the Range Rover remains the benchmark for luxury off-roaders. What started as a bold vision in 1970 has become an unstoppable force, proving that innovation, elegance, and capability can coexist. As the industry continues to change, one thing is certain: Range Rover will continue to lead the way. Today, the influence of Maurice Wilks and Spenking can be seen in every SUV on the market. The Mercedes-Benz G-Class, once a military vehicle, evolved into a luxury icon. Lamborghini's Urus, a supercar-powered SUV, exists because Range Rover proved there was demand for high-performance luxury off-roaders. Even Bentley and Rolls-Royce, brands once dedicated to handcrafted sedans, now compete in the luxury SUV space, a market that Wilks and King unknowingly created. What do you think of luxury SUVs? Tell us in the comments below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.